to dive right in today to our coaching topic. So, which is, of course, really pretentious. It's the meaning of life. Yeah. I'm gonna reveal it. Da-da-da. Like, you know, thousands of years of people trying to answer this question. I'm just gonna do it. So, you know, it's gonna happen. Yeah, thanks, Griff. Yeah, it's, you know, when I really, like, prepared for this, and, you know, I think about this all the time, right? And I'm coming, of course, from my coaching perspective and my resilience perspective, and like, it just occurred, like, it really, at the heart of it, you guys, the meaning of life isn't what we think it is, and it's so much less complicated than I think mankind tries to make it to be. So I'm excited to do it. I am Punch Life Back, and I am streaming on behalf of the Matrix Guard, and we are an epic fellowship of unstoppable heroes that are triumphing over things like suicide, bullying, and hatred on Twitch. And yeah, so if you love what we do, we so appreciate follows and, of course, subs. If you do sub, you have access to all of, like, my coaching show notes and, like, worksheets. Those are all there for you in a sub-only Discord. Or if you're a patron on our Patreon, you get the same benefits. So yeah, because I always throw so much crap. Like, I just, like, share a whole lot of information, and, like, I just imagine being in your shoes and, like, deer in headlights, can't take it all in, and I would panic because I wouldn't be able to take notes fast enough, because yeah, I'm a note taker. Surprise. So yeah, so you can sub and get that benefit. You know, we have an amazing community that does tons of gifted subs. I can't even like touch on the appreciation I have for all of you guys that do that, and just, Mrs. Scott is here! Yay! Oh, so speaking of the gifted subs and everything, we now have enough subs that we have a third emote available, or it should be. I've switched it over. I don't know if it's available yet, but Twitch is working on it, and it's our heart. And I am really excited for it to come live for you guys. So yeah, hi everyone, I love you all. I'm excited to be here. So this coaching stream, it's really about creating that epic fellowship of unstoppable heroes. So it's where we honor the heroes in each other. Like, we may not know we're heroic, but we are, and it's just a matter of changing our perspective and learning to appreciate the strengths that we have, and then getting the courage to go out into the world and use those strengths in a way that only we can. So that's what that's about. We're also going to be boosting our well-being and exploring what it takes to punch back whenever life knocks us down, which it does, unfortunately, sometimes, like, rather often. So we all have adversities that we are struggling with each and every day, and together we can you know, navigate them better, or, like, more successfully, and with the support of our community, it makes a big difference. So yeah, so who's ready to know what the meaning of life is? And hint, I'm not gonna say it's nothing. No, I'm not gonna be nihilistic or pessimistic about it. Okay. At one time in my life, I would have said that way. Yes, indeedies. Indeedly doos. Oh no, I'm becoming more and more like Flanders every day. Howdly doodly, neighbors. Okay. You guys are the best. Alright, so here we go. So, the meaning of life. We know that, and guys, of course, like, shoot things into chat if you got questions for me. If I miss them, I think my mods can, you know, scream at me. So, it's all good. I love to hear from you during this stuff. And really, like, I am so always looking for feedback, and I almost never get it. I want this to be something that you want, that excites you. If you have topics you're interested in, all that kind of stuff, please send them my way. You can email me at punchlifeback@thematrixguard. Hey, SS, welcome! So nice to see you here. Oh, Griff. Well, maybe we should just do, like, another, like, interviewy thing. I say interview thing because we could just do whatever kind of stream, and we could just talk more about this, because I could never say enough and hear enough about this kind of a topic. So yes, and put them in chat too. I'd love that. So, okay. We know that humans thrive when when they have meaning and they struggle when they don't. And luckily, our brains are these meaning-making machines, right? Like that is in many ways the purpose of our brain. So really, when it comes down to it, like you and you alone are capable of giving your life meaning and purpose, right? So it's something that actually comes from within you. It's not something that comes from without, which is how typically most people, at least certainly how I was told to like look for it. It was like, oh, meaning, it's this like thing outside of you that like comes maybe from a higher power or like a universal truth, right? Like it was all these things that like I just couldn't buy into it, and I really struggled with it. And then I was in philosophy classes in college, and I just got like nihilistic. It was like, there's no like human will, like free will doesn't exist, right? And that was like a terrible time, very hard. So this kind of shifts it this shifts it completely and just says, no, it's not something outside of yourself. Meaning is actually coming from within. It's something that you take responsibility for. So if you want it, you have to take it. If you don't want it, then you don't do anything and you won't have it. So there may be, this is arguable, but no more significant example of how important meaning is to well-being than Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning. So if you haven't read it, I can't recommend it enough. It is super short. You like really only have, like it's 2 books in one basically, and you really only have to read the first book. That's where like the juicy stuff is. But Viktor Frankl was an Austrian psychologist and neuroscientist who went through the Holocaust in concentration camps, I think primarily Auschwitz. And he turned that experience into this profoundly like influential book. And he held that, so I'm going to quote him, "Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, which is to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way." So in other words, he discovered that even under the worst, like absolute worst conditions, right? Like don't imagine it too hard, but imagine the Holocaust, right? Being in a concentration camp. Even under those terrible conditions, where literally every single human right is taken away, there's one that they couldn't touch, and which is the ability to create meaning in your life. So even in the worst conditions, you can still have meaning when you give your suffering meaning. Like you give it meaning by responding to it consciously, by taking ownership and responsibility for your meaning. Okay. My head's going, that sounded really circular and confusing, so I hope I'm gonna like open that up for you and explain it better. So if we actually can create meaning out of the worst of circumstances, perhaps it's true that we can create meaning, period. Like meaning doesn't necessarily exist outside of ourselves, right? But it is something for which we are responsible. And maybe it's a radical act of creation by each of us. So I want to give, we have a new puppy here today. I bring him in here, but he's too chaotic to show you. My whole set would like die. I want to give an example that came from Frankl's book about creating meaning out of a hard situation. So in this example, an older man's wife has just died and he's really devastated. And his doctor asks him, well, what if she were still alive, but you had died first? And the guy's like, well, she would be the one suffering now, right? And the doctor points out to him that by surviving his wife, it can be the same thing, that by surviving his wife, the man actually saved her from the pain of losing him. So this like insight, this shift in perspective, this reframe of the problem transformed the man's pain from something detestable into something noble. And the result was that his suffering was relieved. So it all came down to how he was thinking about his adversity, whether or not it created meaning or not. So Frankl says that ultimately, man should not ask what the meaning of his life is, but rather must recognize that it is he who is asked. So in a word, each man is questioned by life. and he can only answer to life by answering for his own life. To life, he can only respond by being responsible. For me, that's his book in a nutshell, and like the insight in a nutshell, which is to life, he can only respond by being responsible. Joseph Campbell, who popularized the hero's journey and through his work in comparative mythology, he believed that, like Frankl, he believed that meaning doesn't exist outside of ourselves. Like there's no universal meaning. And so he said, and I quote, "Each of us has meaning and we bring it to life." So we're the creator, right? It is a waste to be asking the question when you are the answer. I just love that. I love that. Anything that says, hey, you know that like crap you were waiting on someone else to handle for you and you were like really miserable because like nothing was happening? Oh, by the way, like you could actually do that for yourself. Like I love those moments because that's when I get my power back, right? So that's, yeah. I just love the fact that this way of looking at the meaning of life empowers us instead of asking us to give that power away to something outside of ourselves that may or may not happen. So I really like that. Campbell has another quote that I wanted to share, and he says that the crucial thing to live for is a sense of life in what you are doing. And if it's not there, then you are living according to other people's notions of how life should be lived. So I threw this quote in there because there seems to be this interplay between us creating our meaning of life and us living authentically. That by taking responsibility for meaning, we are giving voice to our authentic selves. And yeah, I think that's all I wanted to say. Like we're just like in other words, and this is where I'm like, not, like I'm just thinking, right? But in other words, I'm not sure we can be fully authentic unless we're taking ownership of what's meaningful to us. Like there's a big piece of our authenticity that's missing and not complete yet. So we've talked about Frankl, we've talked about Campbell, and then there's the third person that I highly respect in this regard, and that's Curly in the movie City Slickers, and his one thing. So he contends that the secret of life is something you've got to figure out for yourself. So, you guys, I have a clip of Curly in City Slickers just in case you have no idea what I'm talking about. All right.
Now that's great. Your life makes sense to you. What's so funny?
You city folk, you worry about a lot of shit, don't you?
Shit. My wife basically told me she doesn't want me around.
Is she a redhead?
Well, I'm just saying.
How old are you? 38.
39.
Yeah. You all come up here about the same age, same problems.
Me too, Mrs. Scott.
Spend about
Me
50
too.
weeks a year getting knots in your rope, and then you think 2 weeks up here will time for you. None of you get it. Do you know what the secret of life is?
No, what?
This.
Your finger?
One thing. Just one thing. You stick to that and everything else don't mean shit.
That's great, but what's the one thing?
That's what you gotta figure out.
There's a cow dying. Yeah. Who knew?
Google Fi, a phone plan by Google.
No!
If a winter trial...
We just got taken over by commercials. I'm sorry, guys. Fail. Who knew that such wisdom could be found in City Slickers? Yeah, right? So, again, the meaning of life, it comes from you. You've got to take responsibility for it. So, the cool thing about all this, well, there's so many, but is that modern research backs up Frankl, Campbell, and Curley, in that we do indeed find meaning in the world around us. And we can create or uncover our unique sense of meaning, so it's individualized. And we flourish when we have meaning, and we suffer when we don't. Oh my god, I love that you added stuff to our cheer emote, random. That's great. But why? Like, why do we suffer when we don't have it? So I think this is because when we don't have a sense of meaning, we tend to feel unsatisfied. Like there's something that's crucial and it's missing. And I think like we may not be able to pinpoint that it's meaning we're missing, but we feel its absence. And in its absence, we are spectacular at trying to fill the void in all of these ways that don't really help in the long run, like shopping, drugs, food, like sex, binge watching, right? Like all these things that can become destructive habits, we tend to engage in when we have this void in us. And the thing about those not helpful ways of actually solving the problem is that they always fail because they're not addressing the lack of meaning, right? Like they're not able to give us meaning in our life. So if instead we focus on like, hey, pig skunk. Yeah, so I'm so glad you mentioned that suffering can lead to enlightenment because, so this is all about, like, in general, this stream is about, like, how to boost our well-being, right? And that can sometimes, like, simplistically be equated to feeling better all the time and, like, just always being happy. And that's not at all the case. Like, wellness and well-being, like, flourishing, which is kind of like this ultimate goal that we all want to get to, that entails suffering. Like, there's nothing in there that says we're never gonna hurt. And in fact, there's a lot of benefits to when we have adversities, right? Like, that's when we grow, that's when we become stronger, that's when we learn and our mind expands, when we're humbled. Like, all these things that are really necessary to our well-being happen when we hurt. So it is absolutely possible to flourish even though we're suffering. And I'm so glad you brought that up because that was a good reminder for me too. And yeah, like enlightenment, like, which is this like kind of like all-knowing state, like how could you be there if you've never experienced half of the human condition, right? Like pain. So yeah. So I'm not saying our goal is to not suffer. Our goal is to move through the hard stuff in a way that is conducive to our well-being and to flourishing and like builds our resilience over time. So we're not denying any part of our human existence. But yeah, so when we feel that like that itch that something's missing, if instead of engaging in like the binge watching or whatever it is that, your particular way of escaping, if instead you focus on creating meaning, I think what's going to happen is that like you'll engage less often in those destructive behaviors and the likelihood of your flourishing will increase because you're addressing the root cause of the dissatisfaction. Okay. So that's all great. But then how do we take responsibility and create meaning in our lives? So I'm going to do another Frankl quote because I can't get enough of him. And he says that for the meaning of life differs from man to man, from day to day, and from hour to hour. What matters, therefore, is not the meaning of life in general, but rather the specific meaning of a person's life at any given moment. So this is important because I tend to think, in the past, I tended to think about meaning as like an end state, like it was something that existed and it didn't change. And what Frankl is suggesting instead is that meaning actually can change from moment to moment, that it can be created really out of anything. So no matter what you're going through, there is meaning you can find inside of it. And our meaning can change as we change. And this is really powerful because meaning can't be taken away from us. Like, it can't be destroyed. Similar to like when Frankl was in the concentration camps, that was the one human freedom that the Nazis couldn't take from him because it existed here, right? Like, he had full control over it. So if we don't have meaning, or if we lose our meaning, it's because we've given it away, or because we've chosen not to create it, or because we just don't know about this approach to meaning, right? So meaning is intensely personal. It's unique to who you are. Like, this is the authenticity piece, right? Like, what is meaningful to you may not be meaningful to somebody else. And we tend to, I think, look for meaning from like one single source, but in reality it comes from many different things. So we can pull from and create meaning out of things like work, family, relationships, love, religion, personal projects. Like, we really can create meaning out of everything in front of us. So we can kind of like put it together like Legos into a Lego sculpture of meaning. And you absolutely can find it not just from your positive experiences, but from those negative experiences. So some major positive experiences where people tend to find meaning are things like falling in love, having a child, reconciliation, any really big life-altering decision, and of course, loving and receiving love in return. There are also like minor positive experiences where you can find meaning. So one of my favorites is coming home to my pets. Like, they give a lot of meaning to my life. Expressing or receiving gratitude is a way to experience meaning, so which we'll be doing our gratitude practice in a little bit. Appreciation of beauty. So things like, you know, really taking in a sunrise or a sunset or a flower or like a waterfall or a work of art or like the artwork in a game, like actually taking that in instead of just playing the game, you know, and appreciating it. Quitting something that makes you unhappy can generate a whole lot of meaning. And also like spontaneity, like doing something in the moment that sparks joy or whatever can also create meaning. So I would love to hear from you guys what positive experiences you find meaningful or you are able to create meaning out of. And feel free to put in chat if you want to participate. And if you don't, it's a good question to just ask yourself. It's one of those first stages to, yes, music! Me too. What about, Pig Skunk, what about music? Oh, Griff, that's awesome. Me too. What about music gives you meaning? For me, it goes to that appreciation of beauty. Like when I really like just let myself hear music, it gives me meaning. Oh, performing. Nice. What do you play? Oh my gosh, Mr. Scott. You're not being sarcastic, are you? That's awesome. Yeah, SS. So I talk about positive psychology a lot, and I talk about resilience a lot, and you know, they're partial to the same, they're part of the same thing, right? But essential to both is that connection to human beings, like being connected to other people. So absolutely, SS. Just chatting with friends is hugely meaningful for so many of us. Viola and 7 drums, what? Pig Skunk, do you stream your music? That'd be amazing. Oh, you guys, thank you for participating! Right, like, so one way that I'm kind of skipping ahead, but like, doing things in service of something larger than yourself is very, very meaning generating. So yeah, absolutely, Griff. Like, doing stuff to help those around you not only like is about connection, right? But it's also about that notion of service. So powerful. Oh, that's cool, Pig Skunk. I like saying your handle. I'm gonna say it all the time. Pig Skunk. All right, so we can also, of course, draw life's meaning out of negative experiences, right? So and I think, and one of the reasons why I am so passionate about resilience is that it's in our darkest times that we experience our most exceptional heroism and growth. I deeply appreciate the hard stuff because it's just this like rich area of opportunity and like connects me to what it means to be human and what we all go through. Dr. Seligman has a quote that says like mental or depression is like the common cold of mental illness. It's like, dude, we all go through hard things in life, but if we never embrace the hard stuff, we miss out on so much knowledge and so much empathy that we can use to connect to other people later and make us stronger. So anyways, it is true that people who are really resilient and are able to genuinely bounce back after adversity are able to do so because they are able to find meaning in their darkness, like in their hardest times. Like Frankl, they're able to transform like just the worst things in life into something that has beauty and becomes noble, like our example with the older gentleman who lost his wife. So typical negative experiences where people can often find meaning are things like losing a loved one, getting fired, going through a natural disaster, having a near-death experience, getting diagnosed with a terminal illness or living with a chronic illness. Those are really big negative experiences that can be really rich in meaning for you. So I'm curious. Getting fired is awesome. I've never experienced it where it's awesome, but I've been able to transform it into something that's awesome. So I'm curious, just like with the positive stuff, what negative experiences have given your life meaning and or are giving your life meaning. So certainly, I lost a finger and that transformed my life and set me on really the path that brought me here today. And then I, lost my father-in-law to suicide. And that for sure has contributed to why I'm here doing what I do on Twitch. Yes. Yes. Surviving suicide? Hell yes. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. I'm Sharon. I heard a dinosaur took your finger. Yeah. Don't listen to Super Z-Man, Mr. Scott. It never happened. Yeah, but those things, I could have, I'm super grateful that I was passionate about resilience before I lost my father-in-law. Because if I didn't have the skills of resilience and I didn't know to find the meaning in that, I mean, even with those skills, it was the hardest thing I've gone through, for sure. But because I had those skills, you guys, the Matrix Guard exists. I was able to create something really meaningful out of my pain. And it's awesome. Wow, SS. That is huge. That is not a typical way to look at those adversities, But, I can just, I just know that that's a way to think about it that is more conducive to your well-being, right? It's really kind of like living with a chronic illness. You have pain, right? It's just, I guess I'm just saying it's inspiring to see you really taking responsibility for your reactions to those things. Yeah. And who of us have not had a toxic home environment at some point? Right? Like, this is, like, all of these things, like, we don't talk about them much, right? But they all connect us. Yay. Helped with authenticity. Huge. You guys are really brave, by the way. Seeing bravery in others is like the hands down most inspiring thing for me to see. So thank you. Oh. Oh, the replacement dad. Yes. Griff, how did that, like, make you into, like, the person you are today? Like, how did that, I don't know, like, make you stronger? Ah, nice. You learned all the things you didn't want to be. Yeah. No doubt. No doubt. Oh, you guys, best. So, there's another way to approach meaning in life. And it comes from Dr. Martin E.P. Seligman again, one of the founders of positive psychology. And he has a formula for creating meaning. And it looks like this. Okay, so meaning equals using your core values plus your character strengths in service of something greater than yourself. So here's this service piece I mentioned. And this is backed up by a lot of research. But it is, like, and he's basically combining different pieces of research together to create this formula. So it's not just a formula for meaning, but it's a formula for, like, really boosting your well-being overall. So it's your core values plus your character strengths used in service of something greater than yourself. So the way that I've done this formula is like this. So meaning to me equals being in integrity with my core values of connection, adventure, and vitality. Yay, thank you. And while using my character strengths, which are love, bravery, hope, curiosity, and forgiveness, to make the world a better place by creating this epic fellowship of unstoppable heroes on Twitch. So, that's how I did it as an example. And it is profoundly meaningful to me. And when I was able to, like, actually, like, unpack this and, like, wordsmith it and, like, let it just be what it was, my wellness, for sure, like, my well-being shot up, and it gave me a lot of clarity for, like, decision making, and, like, it's certainly, like, incredibly authentic. Like, nobody else is gonna look like that, right? So it's a really good representation of who I am and how I want to show up in the world. So yeah, I wanna check in with Johnny Scar though, because I missed this. What, Johnny Scar? Wow. Whoo. Yeah, I second what SS says. For sure. And, like, what strikes me, that is not the right word I should use for your example, but what grabs my attention from that story is, like, this redemptive arc. Like, you went through this harrowing event, saw things that, like, hopefully none of us will ever see, right? It was really traumatic. And it put you in touch with this truth that our time is limited, and it did it in a way that makes you appreciate it. Like, that's incredibly resilient. And will just serve you so well in your life. I had just taken a CPR course and had just gotten certified, and I bought the mouth guard, the mouth cover thing, and put it in my glove box like they tell you to do in the class. And I remember I got on the freeway, I was driving, and I was like, please, oh please, oh please, oh please, oh please. I passed the course and everything, I'm certified, but I do not feel any sense of capability of having to use it. Please don't ever let that happen. Right when I got done sending out this prayer to whatever, there was a car accident in front of me, and it was early in the day, so there weren't a ton of cars. But the car, the cars crashed, and they were on that side of the road. And I remember there was, it was several cars up, and we all slowed down. And the car in front of me was a convertible with the roof down with a gentleman in the car. And I rolled down my window to listen, and I could hear someone from the wreck, calling for help. And the guy in the convertible, we were all going slow, chose to keep going. He didn't stop, which really upset me, because then I felt even more responsible, and I'm terrified, because here I am with this certification that I don't feel like I actually deserved. But I grabbed my my little tool, and I pull over, and I get out of the car, and I went kind of like you did, Johnny. I don't know where this courage comes from, but I just went, and luckily it was not at all to the extent of what you experienced, but I was able to just be with the person when they were concussed, covered in glass, and all that kind of stuff, and in a lot of pain, and just hold space. It was so crazy. It was one of those few moments in my life where I just didn't know what to do, and it ended up being a gift, because then I just held space, which I know now is important for empathy and actually helping people through those situations. So I just lucked into that. But that was a crazy enough experience. I can't even imagine what yours was like. Yeah. It reminds me of there's a Buddhist tradition of the monks sitting with people who have passed, and for extended periods of time, and meditating while the body is transformed. And they do it, I believe, in order to get into connection with the impermanence of physical life, so that each moment becomes important. I can't even that is so far removed from my reality, but man. Right? Exactly, Griff. It totally does. Yes, Tibetan Book of the Dead. Is that a real book? Or is, because I feel they have. Got it. Yeah, I would imagine you get so much knowledge from being able to sit, sit with people when they've passed. Yeah, man. People blow my mind what they're capable of doing. Okay, so I have a tool for you guys that you can find. It's another power-up, and it's underneath our power-up panel, and it's the last one on the list. It's a power-up for the meaning of life, and it's Martin Seligman's. Here. I'll just show it to you. It's Martin Seligman's tool that I put into a little form if you want to do it. So you can see I just defined it and gave you my example here on the bottom, but there's a field here where you can enter your core values, you can enter your character strengths, and then in service of something greater than yourself. So it's just a way to do it. And if you missed our earlier streams where we talked about core values and we talked about character strengths, I hyperlinked to our I believe our shortened video of those topics. So yeah, so it's totally there for you to use it. I hope you do. I hope I've inspired you enough through Viktor Frankl, Joseph Campbell, and Curly to want to do these, to want to take responsibility for meaning in your life. Wow. She seriously was right that day, Johnny. Yeah. So, a couple final thoughts on this idea of the meaning, on this very pretentious topic of the meaning of life. So Campbell taught, like, one of the things I, like, can't get enough of from Joseph Campbell is anything he ever said on the hero's journey. I think it is a perfect metaphor for being resilient, being and showing up authentically in the world. And in that model, he talks about how we all start off at home where we're safe and, like, we're not asked to, like, grow at all. We're just chilling and experiencing life. But at some point, we're called to adventure. So, and it's at that point that most of us are like, I don't really want to do that. Like, that scares me. So there's, like, this waffling back and forth where we try not to answer the call to adventure. And often we don't, which is a shame, because we lose out on a lot of opportunity there. But when you do hear that still small voice inside of you, I urge you to take a risk and grow, because you have there an opportunity to create meaning and to claim your authenticity, your pricelessness, right? Because it's our calls to adventure are hyper unique to who we are. So Joseph Campbell, oh, yeah, it makes me so happy, Griff. I think about it all the time too. I'm just catching up in chat. Yeah. So Campbell says that when we refuse that call to adventure, because it's really tempting to refuse it, right? Because it's basically asking you to, okay, you're going to go out into the great unknown, and you're going to be challenged to become more than you currently are, which is scary, and it's hard, and it's going to suck. You're going to face adversity. And yeah, you'll meet some really cool companions on the way, and you'll have a good time, and at the end, you know, it'll be totally worth it, but it's so hard to go through. So when we give in, and we refuse that still small voice, Campbell says that that's when you are someone else's servant. Which is, yeah. He says that when this refusal of the call happens, there is a kind of drying up, a sense of life lost, that everything in you knows that a required adventure has been refused, anxieties build up. What you have refused to experience in a positive way, you will experience in a negative way. And, you know, knowing what we know now about meaning, if you're turning down like something inside of you is saying, do this, go on that. And when you turn it down, you are, like, shutting down, like, I don't know, like a piece of your authenticity, and you're missing out on an opportunity to create meaning in your life. So I can see how that would, you know, potentially create that, like, void of meaning in your life where we tend to engage in those destructive behaviors. And it just sucks when you don't listen to your inner voice. There's, I don't know, like, at least I personally experience, like a kind of a soft betrayal. And sometimes it's not soft. Sometimes it's like a hard betrayal of who I am when I don't listen to that voice, or even worse, I hear it and I decide not to do it because I'm afraid. That being said, I always want to be careful and just say, if there's a difference between being called to, like, experience physical danger, in which case I'd be like, be judicious, right? Because we can be overly optimistic and underestimate risk, especially the physical stuff is dangerous. If it's emotional risk-taking, I say go for it. But that's just my personal opinion. And I'm not a, like, therapist, right? I'm a coach, so I'm going to tell you to go for it. Yes, Griff, that is so well said. So I want to do a cast. There was this really profound book that covers like the top, I think 4 or 5 regrets of the dying. And yeah, like not being true to who you are is a huge regret that people experience on their deathbed. So yeah, if we can make choices along the way that lead to less regret, like why not? Why not? Regret feels horrible. Horrible, horrible. Viktor Frankl, I have one more quote from him. He says that everyone has his own specific vocation or mission in life to carry out a concrete assignment which demands fulfillment. Therein, he cannot be replaced, nor can his life be repeated. Thus, everyone's task is as unique as is his specific opportunity to implement it. So this is why I believe that what all of us are doing with the Matrix Guard can actually save the world. And I know how, like, crazy naive and, like, off the wall, unrealistically optimistic that sounds, but this is why I believe it, because we are all incredibly unique, like with a mix of genetics and character strengths and core values and like talents and then skills, just like personality types, like we're these unique mixes, and being born is like insanely lucky, right? So it's just like we're these little miracles of individuality. And there's something in our psyche, right? Like our brains, through evolution or whatever, I don't understand the mechanism, that calls us onto an adventure, like the still small voice. It's like, that's what you should do. Like, that's what will give you meaning. Go do that. Like when we say yes and we go on those adventures, we do end up creating what only we can create because we're so unique. And I firmly believe that those creations will change the world and save it, because we're only going to improve our lives and save the world and like reverse these really, really hard things like climate change and war and all these like really overwhelmingly big topics, one person at a time, being creative and innovative and connecting to other human beings. And like we were talking about with suffering, like that gives you perspective to connect with other people, and you're more easily able to walk in their shoes. And that means you step into adversity and willingly accept some degree of suffering in order to connect. And that's what the hero's journey does. Like, it is not always pleasant. And that's why resilience matters. So I just threw a whole lot out there. Holy crap. Hopefully it made sense. I don't remember what I said. But yeah, so that's why I believe. That is why I believe what the Matrix Guard is doing matters, and why you all are incredibly, incredibly important. So yeah, it is vital. It is vital to live on your own terms and not someone else's, because that's where your meaning and your irreplaceability exist. Yeah. So I guess I would just end this discussion on the meaning of life with just this, that again, your uniqueness, your authenticity, your calls to adventure, those are your gift to the world. So please, to the best of your ability, don't hide and don't say no to those adventures out of fear. You can lean in and trust the hero's journey, like trust this process, because as Nietzsche says, he who has a why to live for can bear almost anyhow. And you know you have a community like this one to come to when life has punched you, you know, and you need some support, you want some community. Yeah. So, there you have it, guys. My very big talk on the meaning of life. Yeah, let's see, what time are we at? I've got some other stuff I want to do, but certainly if you have any further thoughts or questions about the meaning of life, now's the time to put them into chat as I look at what we're gonna switch to. Oh, and again, that was a lot. If you loved it and you're a sub, you have access to everything I just said, basically, on the sub-only Discord. And if you aren't a sub, but you follow us on YouTube, for every coaching show, I record my like educational exploration in a really quick video. So you don't have to sit and watch the whole stream if you want to watch it again. And we have it in a playlist that's life coaching. They're called Beyond Zero Tidbits. So you can access them all there if you want to hear them again. Or if you are a sub and you just prefer auditory learning, that's a great way to do it. Absolutely. I think, yeah, Griff. Use your own judgment, but yeah. I love me some questions. Sounds good. Just gonna keep dancing until I get your question. So hopefully, since my dancing skills are so great. Oh, I may give up. I bet you're typing it, but I may give up. There we go. Okay. Regarding relationships, what if you were in a relationship that isn't bringing you joy? What would you tell a young person? Woo! So, okay. One of the things that I love about coaching is ethically, we don't give advice. We help people find their own answers. So if I was actually talking to this young person, I would approach it as a coach and ask them things like, you know, what about the relationship isn't bringing you joy? How to help them get really clear on that. And, you know, from there, help them determine what they want to do. And certainly, like, you can ask if they're open to your advice, and then you can give advice, right? So that's that answer. Putting it in context of what we just talked about. So, okay, you're young. The relationship isn't bringing you joy. There's, like, we all tend to... Maybe that's not fair of me. It seems reasonable to assume that a lot of us have scarcity mindsets around certain things like money, time, and love. And it is not uncommon for human beings, young people, to feel like they're not lovable or to be fearful that they're not lovable. So there is that tendency to hold on to relationships out of that fear of scarcity and that fear of not being lovable. So, of course, yeah, I can relate too, right? Like, I'm talking from experience. So if that's true for this person, sorry, my dog is distracting me. He's playing behind me and barking like a crazy mean guy and sounding very, very angry, but he's not. So if that's true, I would just, you know, encourage that shift in perspective, because we are all supremely lovable. Like, there's no scarcity of love in reality, right? Like, there doesn't have to be. And so, like, we will all find, if we're open to it, we can all find love, and we can all find love again. It may not be, like, a sexual relationship, right? Like, it could be a platonic or whatever, but, like, human connection is important. There's billions of humans, right? So there's always this opportunity to be vulnerable and to be loved and to love in return. So I would just, like, encourage that, like, loosening up of scarcity, because why would a young person, what benefit would they get, right, from staying in a relationship that doesn't bring them joy? We were just talking about one of the ways to generate, like, meaning in your life and from a positive experiences is to quit something that's bringing you down, like, that doesn't bring you joy. Oh, thanks, Griff. I'm just spitballing. So, exactly. And And especially at that age, like there aren't kids to take into consideration, right? Oh, you're sending my words back at me. Yeah. I hope that was helpful. Because really, if I was giving advice, I'd just be like, end the relationship and go find one that makes you happy, you know? But there is something to be said too for like, it may be something that's work throughable that would give them a really good lesson if they were to work through it, right? So who knows? Yeah, cool. Okay, so I would love to, see, I'm looking at the time. Yeah, I would love to do our gratitude practice and then do our meditation. So we make sure to get those things in. So gratitude, you guys, this is a crucial power up that we can do. It's super ridiculously easy. We do it to boost our positive emotions, which overall contributes to our well-being. And it's one of those little ways that without much effort, we can take responsibility for our happiness, really. And this is a way, meaning can come out of gratitude. So it's a way to, practically speaking, boost a little meaning into your life. So the first question that I love doing to start this is, what was the best thing that happened to you yesterday? So go ahead if you want to and put it into chat. What was the best thing that happened to you yesterday? So for me, yesterday was Thursday. Oh, I connected with a friend I had not talked to in a really long time. And that was wonderful. We did a video chat, so I actually got to see her face instead of just hear her voice. And that was really great. And the idea about gratitude is by doing this practice, you will start to feel the emotions of like appreciation, and it will be like warmth, and it will like kind of like be this feeling of love-ishness. If you don't feel that, don't worry. It is a muscle, and you are actually building your ability to feel that emotion over time. And even if you never feel it, science says that it's still doing good things in your brain and boosting your well-being. So, and yes, Pig Skunk, to your question, I do think vulnerability is key. You can't have intimacy and really shared connection without that vulnerability piece. And that's how I look at authenticity. If you aren't willing to show up vulnerably to somebody and let them see who you really are, I think that there's a sense that even if they like you, it won't have much meaning because they're not really seeing you. So even if they love you, it will have less meaning because they're not really, like, you're not representing yourself authentically. So how can they actually love who you really are? You know? Okay, so the second question is, what are the 3 things that you are grateful for right now? And this is the heart of the gratitude practice. And this is the part that as you go through your life, take this question with you, ask it to yourself at least once a day. And you can go well beyond 3 things and keep listing things until you really feel those positive emotions. So the 3 things I'm grateful for right now is, I mean, hands down, you guys were fantastic today. You really participated during the educational exploration and like showed up with such bravery that, yeah, that was hands down. I don't even need to go past to the other items, but I will. My green tea and my koozie, I love that. And I have a new puppy here today, which I think I mentioned, and that's really wonderful. So yeah, those are my 3 things. Ooh, the success of my cake business, that I was able to drag my lazy bum to the gym. My chai tea latte. Woo! Something good happened with your cake business in the last couple days. I'm grateful for the entertainment that gives me a much needed distraction when I'm having a sad day. Here, SS. Me too. The next question is, what 3 things would make today great for you? The key here is to choose things that you have control over, that you can take responsibility for. So the 3 things that would make my day-to-day great, let's see. Posting something like cool or meaningful on our Discord channel. I want to send somebody a like well thought out thank you note, and I want to go for a walk. Those 3 things would make today wonderful. And then the very last piece of this is just what's your intention for the day? So my intention is to be, I'm going to do it as an I am. I am grounded in my body. Yes. Yes. Oh, playing Stardew Valley. Giving myself a pedicure, having some chocolate. I am productive. Mrs. Scott, if you have time today, maybe we could play Stardew together. Maybe we do that instead of our meeting later. Or while we're meeting later, we could do Stardew. Yes, I'm gonna kick some butt. She's busy. You shush, Mr. Scott. Griff, I love that you had to clarify that.